Skylar Thompson is a senior advocacy coordinator at Human Rights Activists in Iran, or HRA. In this capacity, she's working towards justice and accountability through monitoring, documenting, and spotlighting Iranian human rights abusers. Skylar, please tell us about the database of human rights violators in Iran and this project's role in accountability efforts.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and thank you to the other panelists. It's really an honor to speak alongside all of you this morning. So I'm going to hit on three main points in the next few minutes, and then, like Roya, hopefully we can dive into a more detailed discussion in the Q&A. First, I'll give a little bit of an overview of HRA and the Spreading Justice database itself, what it is, how it works, why it was created. I'll provide a brief overview of the documentation efforts involved, and then I'll speak to how we envision the database being used towards justice and accountability efforts now and in the future. So for those of you that are not aware, HRA is an Iranian human rights organization that was founded in 2005 inside of the country. We've since relocated to be based in Washington, D.C. However, we maintain a large network of volunteers inside of the country and colleagues scattered around the world. For over 15 years, through our news agency, HURIDOCS, who most of you may be familiar with, HRA has monitored, documented, and published reports on the seemingly endless violations occurring in the Islamic Republic. After years of continuous reporting and seeing little to no accountability, a few years ago, we began to look at ways in which our activities could shine a light on those responsible and seek to contribute to existing efforts to shrink the ever-increasing accountability gap in the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is through this desire that Spreading Justice was born. As Kristen mentioned, Spreading Justice is a database of Iranian human rights violators, both individual and institutional violators. The database includes individuals such as judges, prison heads, IRGC generals, members of parliament, police chiefs, and other relevant state and non-state actors. This database, which is available in both English and Farsi, includes currently over 250 unique violator profiles, ranging from Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi himself to lesser known violators that continuously commit heinous acts and yet fly almost silently under the radar. Each downloadable profile includes a detailed narrative of the violator that is prepared by HRA's own researchers. Where available, the profiles also include evidentiary documents, third-party and in-house media reports, institutional affiliations, any known travel history outside of Iran, and of course, with consent, listed victims. The profiles also include detailed legal reviews that are prepared by experts in international human rights law. Users can search this database utilizing an advanced tagging system that includes both individual and group victims, events, violation types, and more. For example, to demonstrate the tagging system, if an individual was conducting research on the recent Khuzestan protest, they could search and then they would get returned all of the violators that are associated with this event. Further, if an individual was doing research on a particular victim's case, they could, for example, search Nasrin Sotoudeh and find all associated violators with her case. All of this information is available as open source material. However, there is additional, more confidential information available upon request, such as details that shouldn't, be openly available to the public. I should note that this database is a living and breathing tool. Existing profiles are updated frequently, and new profiles are always being added. The Spreading Justice project, however, is more than just a database. There is a website where the database is housed, which is www.spreadingjustice.org. This website allows for anonymous information to be submitted in a secure fashion that is fact-checked by our researchers before being added to the database. There's also a statistics component. And there's a research center that includes resources like English language overviews of the structure of the IRGC and the Iranian court systems. These English language resources are limited, and their existence really can help to understand who to look to when it comes to accountability and why. Additionally, users can find detailed reports, such as a recent publication on the extraterritorial assassination of Mousa Babakani, which was investigated by the Spreading Justice research team, who profiled Sarmad Nazarfad as the individual responsible and likely commissioned by the IRGC. Many ask how this information is collected. HRA collects information from open source research. However, as mentioned before, we also have a wide network of volunteers inside of the country. Our volunteers receive trainings aimed at strengthening organizational documentation capacity. These trainings include digital security, diversity and inclusion, neutrality, informed consent, trauma-informed interview techniques, and more. The information that is collected through this network is extremely important to our work. It also gives us unparalleled access to victims and witnesses, which is a key component in comprehensive documentation efforts, like was mentioned before. This access illustrates the need for governments to work alongside actors with the ability to hold perpetrators accountable. The motivation behind the development of Spreading Justice was the belief that if we can begin to close the accountability gap in Iran, we'll begin to see a disruption in the continuous cycle of abuse. The truth is that the international community has a number of tools available to hold perpetrators of serious human rights violations accountable, particularly when domestic judicial remedies are unavailable, such as in the case of Iran. The use of these tools is lacking. There are several potential reasons for this, but important to this is information. This is where the strength of civil society documentation can become key. Spreading Justice was created so that those that are able are enabled to speak up, to condemn, to utilize available tools to take concrete action against known perpetrators. Accurate and reliable documentation is immensely important to stand up to impunity. And we really hope that Spreading Justice and the work that we continue to do in this database and project will contribute to ending the widespread impunity in the Islamic Republic.
Skylar, could you tell us more about what you've learned from this information that you've been able to collect, or how it's been used?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that unlike Roya, who's had, this incredible database dating back to 2002, I think, we just launched Spreading Justice in March. So this is a really new tool, and we're really interested in, moving forward and learning as we go. I think that we're about to enter a second phase of this project, and we're really, talking as an organization of how we can take what's happened already and make it better and just keep learning in that process. Something that I think is important is that when we see even small steps being taken by the usage of this database, we're able to understand what information included is important for those steps. And it helps us to narrow in more on the kind of documentation that we're doing. But like I said, this is a very new database. So as we move forward, we'll have more to share on lessons learned for sure. But that said, this database is new, but our documentation dates back, very 15 years. So we were able to learn lessons in that documentation effort also to input into this project.
I'd like to know more about what the experiences are of the three speakers with the actual usage of their databases, and how do you track the usage? So I wonder, Skylar, maybe just to go back to you for another minute, do you have any examples of what those small steps are, like indications that the database is being used, and how?
Yes, absolutely. I think, there are a variety of ways the database is used, and it was created in that way. We want the database to be able to be used by researchers, by governments, by intergovernmental organizations and activists. We see, we get, like I mentioned in my remarks, a lot of the information included in the database, or maybe not a lot, but some of the information included in the database is not public. So when we receive inquiries on specific profiles, we're able to understand that these people are being looked at. Additionally, we, like I mentioned, are not only profiling the violators, but we are creating detailed reports on the actions that are occurring. And when we send these reports out, we're receiving, questions back, asking more information. We are asked for updates on this, on individual violators and specific cases. So we track it in this way. I mean, we also, of course, have analytics in the database and are able to track it that way as well. But yeah, I think that gives a little bit more of an insight how we track it.